My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of 28 Weeks Later. And this will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, then come back and watch my review because I will be going in depth. Now, a couple days ago, I reviewed 28 Days Later, and that is a movie I used to love, but on this latest rewatch, it didn't work for me as well as it used to. I still like it enough. I like lots of the ideas of what they're going for. I just find the execution to be a bit messy. But this is a movie I remember just hating. I hated this movie the first time I watched it. So this is my first rewatch of it, and I have to say that I enjoyed this movie much more this time. It's kind of weird how that worked out. I used to love the first movie, and now I think it's okay. And I used to hate this movie, and now I find it to be okay. And, well, slight spoiler warning, but I gave both movies the same rating. Just weird how that works out. But let's talk about what I did like about this movie, beginning with the opening scene. The opening scene to this movie is great. I always say that you need to grab the audience early on. You need something about the beginning of the movie to just grab the audience so they're invested in what happens. And the situation where the wife tries to save the kid and the husband ends up leaving both of them behind to die is the perfect note to begin a movie on. And I love how the movie builds off of that one moment. This movie is a series of cause and effect moments. I always say that the best writing of advice there is to not say, and then this happens in the script. Say, therefore, this happens. Making a chain of one event leading to the next, making every moment, every scene feel important to the movie. And that's what we get here. You've got that scene in the beginning, and then he reunites with his kids. His kids are sad that they lost their mom, so they go to the house to try to find some picture of her so they can remember her. Then they find her. Then the military goes to get the kids and ends up finding the mom. They take the mom to the facility. The dad goes sees the mom. They kiss. The dad gets infected. The outbreak happens, and then the movie just goes off from there. Now, there is some contrived nonsense in this movie, which I'll get to in a bit, but the structure of this movie is very strong. Now, instead of Danny Boyle directing this movie, we've got Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. I definitely mispronounce his name. He's not a director I'm overly familiar with, but I actually think he directs this movie a bit better than Danny Boyle directed 28 Days Later. That said, he doesn't bring his own style to this movie. I feel like he imitates Danny Boyle's style, but I feel like he did it a bit better here. You've got that chaotic energy that makes the first movie so memorable, but he uses it more sparingly and effectively when needed. I do think he does a good job, and I do like the fact that this is a bloodier movie than the original. There are some moments which are just dripping with blood, and you can just feel the weight of what's happening. Now, the cast in this movie does a good job. I think Imogen Poots and Macintosh Mugerton are both good in this movie for kid performances. Then you've got Idris Elba, Jeremy Renner, Robert Carlyle, Rose Byrne, and Harry Pennell, who I do wish had a bit more to do, but for the material they are given to work with, they're all fine in this movie. And I think this movie ends on a really effective note because you're rooting for the characters to make it throughout, especially the kids. Like, literally everybody sacrifices themselves to get the kids out of there. And this boy gets infected, but he's asymptomatic, so he still gets rescued, only for him to eventually lead to the downfall of human civilization on a much larger scale. And what a great note to end on. Because throughout the entire movie, you're rooting for them, the government's trying to stop them, and you're just like, oh, the government is bad. But here you've got some gray, it's not just black or white. If the government succeeded, then the destruction that follows this movie wouldn't have happened. And it just leaves on this haunting note that leaves you thinking about it. And I also do think this movie has some pretty decent tense and action-filled moments that I quite enjoy. But let's get on to the negatives, beginning with the big one, which is, as much as I love the fact that the plot is a series of cause and effect moments, they rely on some massive contrivances. Like the entire idea that the mom is a carrier, that she's asymptomatic, so she's a zombie but she's not a zombie, isn't built up to at all. Like, they needed a way to introduce that before we see her. Like, maybe if we saw someone who was just like that in the opening scene, or if someone's having a discussion about somebody they find who's asymptomatic, that would have been a much better way to establish that rule early on. And then the dad goes into the room with his wife. They find her in the infected area, she's bitten, and he's allowed to just walk in and kiss her. Like, so much of the movie relies on this one moment. And you're just like, I don't buy it. And I don't buy that he would kiss her just like that. Like, someone who left his wife to die would just immediately kiss his wife again, even though he saw her get bitten. I don't buy that. And then he uses a key card to get into that room, but then he becomes a zombie. How can he get out of the room? I assume you need a key card to get out as well. So that doesn't really make sense. And then the government puts everyone in this like locked area, and somehow the dad gets in there, and it's just like, how? And it bothers me because so much of the plot relies on those 3 moments. And you're just like, okay, it's very contrived. Very contrived. I also don't like the fact that Rose only wanted to protect their kids because she thinks they might be immune and she wants to protect them so they could help her make a cure. I don't like that. It's such an objective mindset that I would have preferred if they leaned into her character a bit more. Like, maybe we find out that she lost her kids and she gets a chance to help these 2 kids out because she wasn't able to protect her parents. And it's cliche, but in a movie like this, it could certainly work. I also don't like the fact that the dad just appears at the end. Like, that was just stupid. Like, didn't he die when the city got blown up? Like, it could have just been another zombie. I don't know why it had to be the dad again. The visual effects in the moment where the city does get destroyed are really bad. They don't hold up at all. And one other big problem I have with this movie is that the characters lacked depth. I wish they had a bit more to do. I like lots of the ideas of what they're going for with Rose Byrne and Jeremy Renner, but I wish they had a bit more depth to them. I wish Idris Elba had more to do, because you've got these great actors and you're just giving them nothing to work with. And even though I like the performances of the kids, I just felt like they needed a moment where the kids just realized how much of what's happening is their fault. If they didn't sneak out of the city, then nothing that happens in this movie would have happened. And I just wish there was a moment where they could just sit down and just take all that in, and how we can see them struggle with that. It would make them a lot more relatable and a lot more interesting of characters. Look, I do like this movie. It was much better watching this time than the first time. That doesn't make it a perfect movie, but it's entertaining nonetheless. It's well directed, it's got some great moments. The structure of the plot is very well handled. I like the opening scene of this movie. And even though there's some huge contrivances, the characters lacked depth, and there's a few dumb moments, it doesn't stop my enjoyment of this movie. So I'm going to go ahead and give 28 Weeks Later a 6 out of 10. I'm all for them turning these movies into a trilogy with 28 Months Later. That is one movie I would love to happen one day. But have you seen 28 Weeks Later? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.